The year was 2009. During E3, we get this trailer for a relatively under-the-radar game, showing off a barren wasteland, bandits, creatures, and a heck of a lot of guns. This game was called Borderlands, and it changed my life. Okay, that's a little overdramatic, but technically not a lie. Borderlands, and we are specifically talking about the original game today, means more to me than it probably does to most people. Sure, the series does have a massive fan base. I am not special for parading around my love for it, but I wanted to go over my personal relationship with this game. So if you want to join in on my look back at Borderlands and what it means to me, catch a ride. Starting its development in 2005, Borderlands was initially pitched as the love child of Halo and Diablo, combining the randomly generated loot system with that of a first-person shooter, but probably the single most memorable feature about the game would be the look and style of it. Originally, the game was going to have the look of a more realistic and gritty action or war game, but still keeping the silly car physics and ridiculous characters, but it wasn't sitting well with some of those who were working on the game. At this point in the process of development, the game was 75% of the way finished, and they did not have that one special thing to help make their game stand out even more than this shooter-looter genre. Then this guy, Brian Martell, the chief creative officer, had taken a small team and spent time reworking a different prototype version of Borderlands, one that would change the art style from the gritty look to a unique cel-shaded one. At this point in gaming, there were a handful of games that traded in trying to go for the most realistic graphics and went the route of having a little extra pizzazz. Something that made the graphics, in my opinion, beautiful in most cases. For Borderlands, this was done in secret. If this information was to get out, Brian was worried that the other teams working on the game would have a sense of uneasiness about the project as a whole. Understandable, with the game being this far along, and in the background there is an effort to rework the base look of the game. This look would result in the game having a hand-drawn mixture with its textures and shading, and once this look was decided upon, they moved forward to rework the whole game to fit the look, adjusting a few things here or there like the position of the moon in the Pandora sky, which would affect the shadows within various levels in the game. But in doing so, the initial launch window of 2008 for this game was out the window, and now the sights were set on 2009, where on October 20th of that year, Borderlands would be released. And with all of that being said, on that release date of October 20th, 2009, I didn't buy the game.
Coming soon! Rated M for mature!
Yeah, that's a true statement. I did not purchase the game on its release. Now, I tend to have this separation with myself in the internet and never try to get too personal about things in my private life, but I can't talk about Borderlands saying this game saved my life without going into detail about it. In 2009, I was pretty lost as a person. I had just moved after having just moved not long before that, having to deal with losing friends in my life because of bouncing between a few schools. By the time I was getting resettled in, I started to lose what made me, me. Now, I apologize for sounding overdramatic, but what can you do? At this point, nothing really mattered to me. My joy for even the things that did bring me happiness died out. Video games were no longer bringing me joy. Movies were no longer bringing me joy. Most days would be spent after school laying on my bed staring at the ceiling. This was the first time in my life that I had experienced depression. There was other personal things going on with others in my life that definitely were aiding in these feelings, and there were other family-related monetary struggles. The times were hitting hard, not that at that point I could fully grasp the scope of it, but I witnessed it firsthand. I started losing my appetite, barely eating most days, and I quickly became a decaying shell of myself. I truly felt so alone and had no drive to do anything but basic needs like taking a shower each day. I was another teenager who didn't know who they were or what would even help me. That is, if I was even seeking out the help to do so. I knew about Borderlands. I've seen the trailers, but in October of 2009, video games were the last thing I was worried about. I think it was about 5 days after the release of the game, I decided to get on YouTube to check out some videos, finally doing something other than just laying in bed. One of the videos that came across my screen was a review from IGN on October 19th, 2009 for Borderlands, thinking to myself, oh yeah, that game did come out. So I proceeded to watch the 4-minute review out of my curiosity, and I was pretty enthralled with what I was seeing. The gameplay looked fun. There it was, a spark of hope, thinking something was fun. Later the next day, I went over to GameStop with a stack of older games I wasn't playing anymore to trade in and hopefully have enough to just get a copy of the game. I got back just shy of the cost of the game in tax, somewhere around $4 short. My mom pitched in and gave me a $5 bill that helped me get a brand new copy of Borderlands. This copy of the game right here, in fact. With some actual pep in my step, I ran to my room when we got home and I popped in the disc and began my adventure in the Borderlands. Not even 5 minutes into the game and I have a smile on my face. The intro cutscene, the way characters you could play as were introduced, and the music used in the intro, and I'll circle back to that specifically shortly. Just getting into this universe of sarcastic characters, flashy villains, and just so many different guns that I would feel bad for swapping out one for another, but I know I needed to do it in order to get through this other area. It was all just so fantastic. I loved this beginning area of the game, the arid Badlands. It's so simple, but yet has a lot of areas that contain a nice chunk of the missions, as well as going into full other areas like Skag Gully, where you meet the first real eccentric villain, Nine Toes, and his two Skags, Pinky and Digit. From there, exploring the arid Badlands more and more, leading you to another massive boss fight, Sledge. This guy was the definition of trying not to rage quit, but I never did. Dying in this game was almost part of the fun. Oh, you died? Well, try again. It was quick and frantic, and before you know it, Sledge was defeated, hammer and all. How could this game get any better? I'm thinking to myself. That's when another mission would take me to the furthest edge of the arid Badlands map, and there was a whole nother massive area to explore that starts you off by ramping your vehicle from high up and dropping you right into a Mad Max inspired location, boss and all. While larger locations like this in games are common today, and even by Borderlands standards now, with the second and the third game making the first game look so tiny, this to me was so unexpected. I thought the whole game was within the arid Badlands, not several other major and smaller map areas that are filled with nice little pocket areas to travel to as well. After the first few days of having this game, I had beaten it. I hadn't had a feeling like this in a while. I gave all of my attention to Borderlands and felt happy for once. I even used the game to spark up a conversation with someone at school who I overheard talking about Borderlands at lunch, and before you know it, I am playing Borderlands co-op and I have made a friend in the new place I am at. Now, 13 years later after the game's release, I have played through the game on every released platform it has been on, and for a total of about 30 times. Of course, I would go on to play and enjoy the rest of the Borderlands series, but as good as they are, none of them mean as much to me as the first game does. It literally saved me from my downward spiral of depression. I was able to feel joy again, making friends, and even eat again. Then there's the other thing, the opening music to the game. During the opening cutscene, the song they played was Ain't No Rest for the Wicked by Cage the Elephant, a band formed in 2006, with this being the first time I had heard of them or their music. The song really sat with me. I could not stop listening to it, and it led me to the rest of the band's music at the time, falling in love with their unique sound and variety of high energy and chilled out tunes. Their first studio album had just come out the year prior. It was self-titled after the band's name and featured a track list that I would use as the backing of my constant playthroughs of Borderlands. Their music brought me just as much joy as the game did. It pulled me back up when I was sinking, and ever since I have been a follower of their music. In fact, they are my favorite band of all time, and a few years ago I finally got to see them in concert when they were touring with Beck. I am forever grateful for the combination of their music and this video game for helping me. It may sound silly that a video game and music were the devices that picked me up at my lowest point, a point in which I was wasting away, wondering when is the last day I wake up. But these external devices were able to do that for me. I am grateful that my path crossed these games' path, as it gave me a fresh start for myself and my favorite band of all time. Now that I have finally properly shared my story here, I do feel a weight has been lifted off my shoulders a bit. I still deal with seasonal depression and have had some other pretty low moments since then, but maybe if one person takes something away from my personal story, then I feel making this video was right to do. In the pinned comment will be resources for those who are struggling or in a dark place. Trust me, you are not alone. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Later.